I have some questions about this. The P36S from Roy Bela. Last year, I did a video about my love for Powkitty and how I wanted Powkitty to survive. And while Powkitty still exists and you can buy off of their website, they have not released a product since over a year ago when they released the V90S. So, what is Roy Bela? It came up here and it's selling a lot of stuff, and this is the first handheld that they have shipped. Although there's no branding anywhere on here to indicate that they shipped it. But even stranger, this is actually the shell of a Powkitty, the Powkitty RK2023, which released more than 3 years ago. It was well received. But that handheld had a rock chip 3326. But this has an A33, or at least that's what it says. We're going to find out as we delve into this. Why would they release it with a less inferior CPU anyways? Especially since you can still, from Roy Bela, if I'm even saying that right, you can still buy the Powkitty that they released last year for just $10 more that has an RK3566, the X35H. So, let's dive in and take a look at this and check out the upgraded, newer, reshelled Powkitty / Roy Bela / RK2023 / P36S handheld. So, looking at the box here, it does reminisce of Powkitty in some ways. We've seen these sort of yellow boxes from Powkitty in the past, and so there are shades of it here. It is a particularly retro looking box here. We got the P36S, which R36S, P36S, sort of a generic name. We do have a picture of the unit on here. And then, oddly enough, over to the side we have XYBA. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is, but it says Retro Game Console. Again, there's no branding on the top here. Looking around the side, and we have a lot of symbols, a lot of retro symbols. That's kind of nice. And then on the end of it, we do have the colorways. This comes in black, white, orange, and clear, or an unknown color. There's not really anything else on here, including the bottom, which is just blank. There's nothing on the bottom. So again, we don't have any branding or indication of who made this or who it's from. It's certainly not Powkitty or even Roy Bela, if you can tell from it. But let's open it up and take a look inside. And the first thing we have is a manual. So we do have a manual here, and the manual does say P36S. We do have some, it's not in English, so let's hope there's English on here. Opening up, and yes, we do have English, and it is a handheld game console, P36S. There's some precautions here, function introduction, basic parameters, low battery, install game, about simulator, but there is nothing I can see as to a manufacturer. It does indicate that this is version 2.0, so that's interesting. But if you were looking for anything to indicate whether this is made by somebody, it just doesn't show it. There's nothing there indicating who would have made this. But it is a pretty standard manual here. Let's get that out of the way. We have the handheld here that's in a nice packaging. We have a tray, as always, a tray. No surprise there. And below the tray we have a USB cord, USB-C to A. So, nothing too surprising here. Our basic USB-C cord. There's no screen protector, nothing else underneath that. So, pretty basic, but for a budget handheld, they're selling this at a very competitive price for a new product launching with, with a low-powered CPU. Or at least we think it's going to be. Now, for those of you that may not be following, the A33 is a CPU that we most recently saw in the MIUI A30. Now that's a handheld that we like a lot, a micro handheld that is got the 2.8-inch screen. Okay, so first impressions, I never had the RK2023, so I can't really say or compare to it, but looking at the images online, it's obvious that this is the exact same shell. And you can see here, it does have a nice flat bottom to it, so it can stand up, and a flat top. I kind of like the shape of this actually. I do believe that the RK2023 was pretty popular when it released. In fact, there was a black version that added Wi-Fi. So it's going to be interesting to find out if this has Wi-Fi in it or not. But it does feel light and a little bit cheap. I've been handling some really nice handhelds lately, so it's kind of apparent once we hold on to something like this, and you can kind of tell that it's pretty cheap. The quality of it feels like typical plastic that we're used to seeing from Powkitty. Not overly cheap, but certainly budget. Looking around the handheld, and we'll start with the buttons. And the buttons are not too loud. Not bad at all. The buttons have a good travel distance to them. They have a nice individuality. They're not connected, so I do like the buttons. They're nice and large, a nice size to them. I'd say overall I'm satisfied with the buttons. This D-pad, oh, the D-pad is not great. So the D-pad feels pretty stiff. It's not pivoting very well at all. I would prefer for it to pivot a little better. It's got a nice size to it, and the texture on it feels pretty good. It's good to feel to it. The plastic's okay. We'll have to see how it plays in game, but it's a little stiff and not really pivoting. I don't feel like it may have a lot of false diagonals. Moving to the sticks, and we have typical Switch style sticks. Now we do have L3 and R3, so that's not bad. I like them in the placement down here. I think this is appropriate for a lower powered handheld, so I do like that. They just feel like the typical Switch style sticks we've seen over and over again, which are not horrible, but prone to drift over time. Yeah. On either side of this, there is nothing on either side of it. Again, on the bottom we have this nice flat bar. I like the contrast here, the black on the, calling this orange, kind of a cheese Velveeta color. But I like that flatness down there. We do have two speaker holes. I don't know if there's two speakers. We have a USB. We have our TF slot and TF game. So good to see that there's two slots here for the cards. I like that. And a headphone jack. So pretty nice there. I'm glad to see that. I think this is really the same as the RK2023. From what I can tell, this is an exact shell of it. So all the ports are the same. On the top, we do have our plus or minus volume rocker. We have a reset button and a power button. And then we have these inline shoulders. And they're a little loud. So if you're looking for something kind of quiet to kind of keep on there, I don't think that's what's going to happen here, because they are a little bit on the loud side. On the back, there is some kind of little design here, but nothing else, no branding. There's no air vents on here. I don't expect this is going to be an overly hot CPU anyway, so it doesn't really need any sort of cooling. And again, the color's nice, but it feels like your basic budget sort of plastic. So overall, it feels like a $35 to $40 handheld, which is the price they're asking for this. I'd say that the buttons are nice touch. The D-pad, questionable. The sticks are decent. Shoulder buttons, a little loud, but they're in line. And this would be nice and pocketable. But let's get this thing booted up and find out what kind of software is on it, and if this really does even have an A33, because I want to open this up and explore it and find out, is this really that? And if so, does that mean that we might get Spruce on this? Well, that would depend a lot on whether the team actually ports it to it, if this is indeed the same CPU. But let's get this booted up and find out what it looks like. We'll be right back. Hey guys, sorry after the video, but I wanted to share this with you. I used to think that 3D printed grips were the best, and I still like a lot of them, but my God, lately I've gone crazy with these TPU grips that AliExpress has provided me. I wanted to share with you guys because if you hit the link in the code below, you can get a bunch of these yourselves. I've got these for all of my handhelds, and they make them have better grips, like my Pocket S Mini here, which now has an even better ergonomics with the grip on the back. They go on easily. We've even got one here for the 477V here, if you like it vertical. We want to thank AliExpress for being a partner with us and always sharing with us these wonderful items and codes so you guys can participate as well. I'm going to try a few of these on as I show here, a bunch of different handhelds, but these are really nice, high quality at a really good, decent price. They go on pretty easy. Look how clear that is. Just look how nice that is. And you can just easily pop the handheld into it like a glove right there. And now look, my 477V just has a nice coating and protected on it. It feels better. It's gripped. I've got one here for the Mangmi that I'm looking forward to. And we even got one for the Pocket Air Mini. Again, hit the link down there below if you want to grab some of these. We want to thank AliExpress again. Also, check out our new link for JP fans where you can order stuff directly from Japan. Back to the show. All right, so let's turn this guy on. So we're going to hold the button down and find out what the software is on here, because I'm very curious as to what kind of software we have. So booting up into it, and we do have P36S. So P36S, that looks familiar. I've seen that somewhere before. So that's a nice screen right there, kind of coming in there. And it's taking a minute to load, so this is definitely emulation station. So we do have emulation station. Looks like we have, we have Batocera. That's surprising. I did not expect that, guys. We do have Batocera Linux on here. So that's pretty interesting that there's a Batocera for this. Well, we're going to find out what this CPU is, but it does have Batocera. So we go into it, and yeah, this is our typical Batocera build that we're used to. We'll go into system settings and information, and maybe it'll tell us what the CPU is in there. I don't know. I'm not too confident we're going to find out, but let's take a look. We have a version here. We do have a 64 gig card, so the user disk is 2 gigs. The display is 640 by 480. No surprise there, 3.5-inch screen, 60 hertz. It is a Mali G31. Okay, so it's a Mali G31 that's reporting, which could be several different CPUs here, and a vendor is ARM. Looking through this, again, we have user interface. There is several themes in here. Let's check out these themes and kind of look at what they have here. NES box, dark games, okay, like Dark OS maybe? I don't know. Let's take a look at this and find out what this theme looks like. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. That is a pretty nice theme on here. Oh, that's kind of scary. Let's go in there and see theme configuration, and wow, logo default, color default, icon, sound, shader. You can turn a shader on this. Oh, look at that. Several shaders on this theme. Animation on or off. Avatar, Batocera, Retrobat. Let's do emulation station. And yeah, that is pretty nice. Oh, look at that. Yeah. So we do have several themes here. This is a pretty cool looking theme. So we have the experience of Batocera. Let's check network. Let's see if it has Wi-Fi. Now there was the RK2023 special version with Wi-Fi. Again, I don't know. Let's find out. Enable Wi-Fi. And we're going to see here if it's taken a minute to turn the Wi-Fi on. So Wi-Fi SSD, no Wi-Fi networks found. No, not so. It may need a dongle, but there's no built-in Wi-Fi. It looks like. Again, the box doesn't mention Wi-Fi. The listing, neither does the manual. So no surprise here. So no Wi-Fi built in. Kind of a shame, but it probably will work with a dongle. We can't enable it. Device settings, power management. System settings, information. So we still at this point don't exactly know what CPU we have in here. The highest system I see on here is Nintendo 64. Let's try some Nintendo 64 and see how it plays, because if it's the same chip that's in the Mio A30, it may run some N64, but we'll see. And we'll try the sound here as we boot up into this. So it's really interesting. Again, like I said earlier, it's surprising. What is the purpose of this? Why did they release this? I mean, as far as I can tell, this is only available on Roy Bela. I didn't see it on AliExpress, so it does seem to be that. And you can see this is running pretty slow. Not too surprising that this would run slow. So this is probably, it's not the 3566 for sure. Again, the X35H, a handheld that had Powkitty's own special OS on it. It was pretty nice. Is only, even at Roy Bela, only about $10 more than this, and has a really nice build quality. So in a lot of ways, you know, this is kind of surprising. But maybe they just needed to get something out to test the waters, to kind of test it. But yeah, this is running very poorly. I would say this is not an N64 handheld, but let's get this thing opened up and take a look and find out what's inside and see if we really do have an A33. We'll be right back. Alright, so I opened this thing up and yes, it is an A33. Not an all-winner A133, which is a CPU we've seen in many handhelds like the Trim UI line, but an A33, which we saw in Miyu's A30. So the fact that it has Batocera is very interesting to me because I wasn't aware of a build for that for the Miyu, but maybe there is one there. So this is not a super powerful, it's below a Rockchip 3326. It's going to play Game Boy fine, it's going to play Game Boy Advance, but anything like Dreamcast, anything that's like at an N64 level, even the PS1 is going to have some things that are going to struggle. That chip was fine for a smaller little handheld with one stick, but for this, kind of expect a little more. But as you can see here, Game Boy Advance looks pretty good on this. It's got, we do have access to our RetroArch, so we can go in there. It's running a decent version, 121, so pretty newer RetroArch version, so you can do things on this. It's not locked down, so I like that. But again, I have to question, who is this exactly for? I like the shape of this shell. I think it's a nice pocketable shape. The sound on this is not bad coming from the bottom firing speakers. But again, I think there's just much better choices. I like to see Roy Bela pick up, if they're going to be the new Powkitty, let's see them pick up the mantle and go forward. But this is just a rehash with a worse CPU. But some interesting software, Batocera. But overall, I'm not sure. I just think there's better options out there. This came out way too late. Perhaps this would have been way more interesting back in 2023. But let me know what you think. I'm glad to see an old Powkitty revived. I'd like to see some of the better Powkitties maybe getting updates, a real new CPU. Let's put some T618s in some of those older Powkitties. How about the RGB30 with the T618? Okay, Roy Bela, how about that? But going with a worse handheld, I just don't know. Screen's decent, but it's a screen we've seen over and over again. Sounds decent. If this thing was running $25, $30 like the R36S, sure, but I don't know. Just think they're asking too much for something that's a rehashed older handheld. But let me know what you think. I want to hear your thoughts on it. As always, we appreciate you tuning in, and remember to hug your loved ones and love your hugged ones, because tomorrow's never promised. But we'll see you next time, Deadheads. Dead Fred out.